Hey, welcome back to the channel. Today we've got a half-hour yin yoga class. Don't have a whole lot of poses, but the ones we're going to get into, we're going to spend just a few minutes of time there. The class will be most effective if your muscles are cold. That's just how yin works. So go ahead and grab a blanket, head over to your mat, and we'll get started. Hey, welcome back. So I have my yoga blanket here, and we're going to begin in Tadpole. So when you get set up, you just take your blanket across the middle of your mat. You might even want to have it a little bit wider. So it just depends on how far apart the knees are going to go in this pose. And you want to have the blanket underneath both knees. And then you want to start to slide the knees apart until you feel a little bit of resistance. And so you want to feel that to the inner thighs. That's our target area in this pose. Toes can be together. And again, you can stay here. You can begin to lower down a little bit. Maybe you drop down to your forearms. Maybe the hips start to rest back toward the heels. And again, we'll settle in here for a little bit of time. So half-hour class, we don't have a lot of time to spend in each pose. We're going to try to go about 3 minutes in our poses today. Normally, you'd have a bit longer to spend in a yin pose, but that's when class is, half hour, some of them are 90 minutes long, and you've got that luxury to spend. But each pose we're going to get in is going to hit a different target area. So we're going to try to get through pretty much a total body practice with not a lot of time. So in this one, your potential target area is going to be your inner thighs. Could be getting into your back a little bit here as well, but inner thighs is going to be the main spot that we're targeting. And you want to feel just a little bit of stress in this area. So I always like to tell people to think of your stress level in these areas from a scale of 0 to 10. So 0, you're not feeling anything. On the other end, 10, you're in a whole lot of pain. So we're just going for mild to moderate amounts of stress. So somewhere around a 2 to 4 is all that we want to get in this one. And first pose is generally a little bit milder. So again, may not feel very much here. If you find you need to add a little bit more stress to the target areas in this pose, you can just begin to wiggle the feet a little bit further apart. And sometimes that'll be all you need. And for me, I like to stay on my forearms, but again, if you want to drop all the way down, if that doesn't send it over that moderate level, then you can work through that. And then, like I said at the beginning of class, yin's more effective when your muscles are cold, so we're targeting the fascia and the connective tissue that are much more dense. So in just a normal yoga class, you're stretching muscle, and you're usually only there for about 5 breaths. So 5 breaths, 30 seconds or less, probably. Yin just requires more time. So some poses are in there for a minute. Others, some you could stay in 7 minutes plus. And all of those you would work up toward. But all that to say is they just take a little bit more time. So that's why we get into it and we just kind of hang out. And just want an even, normal breath here. And again, if any of the poses do end up being a little bit too intense, you can always come out of them either temporarily, or you can come out of any of the poses altogether. Don't have to stay in any of them for the whole time. But that's our amount of time we've got set for this one. Let's go ahead and slowly start to come back up. Draw the knees closer together, and then rest back into child's pose. So we'll either take a passive counter pose or one that's more active before we head on to the next pose. And we'll do that after each one. going to come back to the legs a little bit later, but we're going to move into shoulders and upper back at this point. So you're going to come up onto a tabletop. When you get in tabletop here, in general, you need to take the hips a little bit behind the knees. And then your hands can come a big step forward. This is heart melting pose. So hands, about the width that you would take for downward dog, and then start to lower your forehead down toward your mat. Let's get our time going here. So again, hands shoulder width apart, a little bit wider is okay. And we're targeting upper back, trying to get into shoulders. Possibly getting into triceps here as well in the arms. So they're potential areas. And doesn't mean you'll be able to target each one of them, but you can certainly try. If you don't feel anything in your triceps, and I don't really in this position. For me, I generally have to take the elbows to the floor, and then the palms can come overhead. So this is how I like to practice the pose. It gets into triceps, gets into my shoulders, upper back. And this works for me. If keeping the hands out straight works for you, then you can do that. We'll all be set up a little bit different in yin poses. And it could be a little bit too intense, having your elbows to the floor. So if it is, another alternative is to keep your arms straight and then just elevate your hands up a little bit. Take each hand, place it on a block or a bolster if you've got it. If you start to feel any numbing, maybe any tingling or numbness in your upper back, and that could be a sign of compression. So your bone could be compressing soft tissue there or pressing on a nerve. And if that's the case, again, you don't want to ignore it. You want to try to find a way around it. So if you've got the arms out straight, you can try to roll to the pinky side of the hands, or sometimes just taking the hands out a little bit wider will get around that. If you're okay, stay here. Remember, if you need to come out of it, you can. You can make adjustments. You can move around to add or decrease the stress. Just changing the position of the hips relative to the knees. Again, that's going to change things as well. So you can adjust, play around with it, see which works best for you. It's our time. Start to make your way back up. And bring your knees together again. Take the hands back toward the feet. We'll take this version of child's pose where the shoulders relax. And after some yin poses, you could notice a little bit of soreness, but soreness after yin is normal and it's temporary. It just happens right away. So sometimes it'll be gone by the time you get to the next pose. So let's go ahead and work our way back up. We're going to move into Sphinx pose, targeting our back. You might want to keep your blanket here on your mat to rest your belly on. So if you do, just take it out a little bit longer. And then lie down on your mat. Again, on or off of that blanket is okay. And then start with the elbows a little bit forward to the shoulders. So this is going to make it to where you can add the stress to your back in little increments. You can start here and it's not quite so much. And again, keeping in mind you want to have that mild to moderate amount of stress in the lower back, nothing higher than that. You could start to walk the elbows back a little bit if that keeps you in that range. Again, possibly ending up with elbows underneath your shoulders. And you have a couple options you can do with Sphinx. The one that I prefer that works best for me is to just let the head relax here, and then really just kind of melt down into it. So you let your shoulder blades draw together, and the belly relax. So that's one version. Version 2 is to do more of a active Sphinx pose, like maybe you would in a yang class. So as long as the elbows are underneath the shoulders, then you can start to press down through the elbows, lifting the chest up, lifting the head. And that's another version of Sphinx that's okay here in YIN. So again, you can try both of them, see which one you feel like you're going to get a little bit more benefit out of, and then you can take that one. Now, we're already about halfway through the amount of time that we've got for this one. If you already need to add more stress to your back and your elbows are underneath the shoulders, then consider bending the knees. So this can add a little bit to it. Again, just listen to your body and then make the adjustments that you need to here. And if you need to, remember you can exit temporarily out of a pose, so you can just lower down, and you can give your back a little break if it needs it. And again, if you can't keep it under that moderate level, then you want to come out of it altogether. There's no reason to stay in a pose that's going to end up causing pain. That's not what YIN's about. Go ahead and release. Start to lower yourself down. So you can just cross your arms here, rest your forehead. And slowly start to press back up toward the tabletop. And again, you're probably going to move a little bit slower, just naturally coming out of Sphinx pose, since it's such a big back bend. So you can hang out in tabletop a little bit longer there if you need to until your back starts to readjust. And then when you feel it's okay, start to work down into child's pose. Come back in here, take second resting pose. And start to make your way back up. It's possible that you may need a block for this next one, so if you've got a block, grab that. You could use it for shoelace. Your blanket, again, you can fold it up until you've just got like a standard fold here. You can use this to sit on the rolled edge if you want, or you can use it underneath your knees for a little bit of support. So again, you have a couple options here as well. So shoelace, right knee is going to go on top of the left. And when you get into this, we only want to feel the stress in the outer right hip, maybe a little bit in the left too, but right side's going to be the one that we're targeting for sure. And then in the glute. If you feel any stress at all here in your knees, then you want to undo your shoelace a little bit and then take just a regular crisscross pose. If this still doesn't get into it, then the knee that's causing you a little discomfort, then you put a prop underneath it. So if blanket, block, if you got that, you can use it. Again, you can stay upright, or you can start to add a little forward fold into it. And again, since we're a little bit more limited on time here, we're trying to add a bunch of, we're trying to make the most use out of the poses that we can. So we can add a bit of shoulder work here. If you want, you can add eagle arms. And bring that right arm on the bottom. And again, you can stay upright, and if this is fine. If you want to fold forward, then perhaps this is where you use your block. You can take it in front of the knees and you can let your elbows rest on it. It can be a little bit too much to let your arms rest on that top knee. Again, it can make the pose a little bit too stressful. If you try eagle arms and you find that you don't like it, again, you can always undo it. Time, start to work your way back up. And lean back, let the knees lift up. And we'll take an active counter pose after this one. So windshield wipers, that's just one option. Your feet wide, your knees dropping from one side to the next. If for some reason that doesn't work for you, just legs up straight, let your ankles rock side to side. Maybe bounce the knees up and down a couple times. And once you feel like things are unstuck, then we're going to change into the other side. So shoelace, or again, just cross-leg version here is okay. Left shin in front or left knee on top. You don't have to do the same pose on each side. You can do, whichever one works for the hips and the knee. And if you're adding eagle arms, it will be left arm on the bottom. Again, stay upright or add that forward fold in at any point. Right about at that halfway point on this one. And slowly start to come back up. And lean back, let the knees lift up. And again, you can take windshield wipers or just that straight leg version here with the ankles rocking side to side a couple times. Bring on a little bit here for your counter. We have one last pose before relaxation. We're going to get into hamstrings, back of legs, and the back. So you can sit on the rolled edge of a blanket here. You know, if you typically use that in your forward folds in a YIN yoga class, then chances are it's probably going to be pretty helpful here. You know, so we use it to kind of help tilt the pelvis forward. You're going to start with both legs out straight. Let your quads relax, and then begin to fold forward here. And relax the head. And hands can straddle the legs. You can hold on to your feet if you want. You don't have to. I like to just have the hands here. And if this bothers your back when you're folding, then keep the chest lifted, have your back a little bit more in extension. And see if that works for you. If not, you can start to round the back out and then take your forward fold that way. Bit more than halfway through this one. And stay here if it's okay. Come out if you need to. And slowly start to work your way back up. And then go ahead and lie down on your back, come to relaxation. If you still have your blanket close by, you can just roll it up. Place that roll underneath your knees, and that'll just help your lower back relax a little bit easier down into your mat. Let's take the palms, face up either side of the hips, and relax. Last few minutes here in relaxation. And take your time, start to work your way back up to seated. Your hands to your heart, eyes closed. Thanks for practicing. Have a great day. Namaste. So if you'd like to practice along live with this class and have immediate on-demand access, on the next screen, head over, take a picture of that QR code, head over to theyogamat.com, become a member of the virtual studio. There's classes in Middletown and Pleasureville in Kentucky if you want to do something in person. Again, this class is made free to anybody on YouTube. It just early virtual members get access to it 2 weeks early. So hope you enjoyed. See you next time. Hey, I hope you enjoyed that class. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to get a new short form class every week. And if you like what you see and you want to support me, go become a member at theyogamat.com. You'll get unlimited live virtual classes every week and access to our on-demand library with over 500 classes in it. Have a great day. Namaste.